Hey there, youth and youth families. Welcome back to this time of Table Talk, where this week we are talking about submission. And in the last session, I promised you we would talk about submission to God, to authority, to others. And today we're going to start with the first one. We're going to talk about submission to God. So to do that, I'm going to just dive right into a passage of scripture that kind of first came to mind when I was thinking about why it's important to submit to God and why we can trust Him. I'm going to go to the 10 Commandments. The first few verses, that's in Exodus chapter 20. I'm going to start at verse 2. It says, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an image in any form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of their parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. All right, three things that I kind of pick out from this passage as I'm reading it, and three really good reasons to submit to God. First of all, there's this idea of He brought us out of slavery. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about just what it means to have no other gods before Him, and that's what submission to God kind of looks like. And then finally, I want to touch on just a little bit about what this means to have a jealous God and how submission kind of fits with that. So let's start with, I brought you out of a land of slavery. Now, one of the things I realize is this is a hard one for us to get context on, because I don't know about you, but I've never really known what it's like to live in like physical slavery, where you kind of have, someone forcing you to do something. The best comparison I could kind of have for that is kind of going to school. And so like, if I'm going to be liberated from slavery, I kind of think about like the last day of school. And I kind of think of this passage then, I am the Lord your God who declared the last day of school. Now, if that were to be the case, let's say God said, today is the last day of school, take a break, take a vacation, you're done, have some fun. Wonder how many of you would then the next morning wake up at 6 a.m., get showered up, dressed, eat breakfast, and then walk back to school? No, you'd go out and you'd have fun, right? If you are the type of person that would like wake up on a July 1st, let's say, and head to school, maybe this season has gotten the better of you and you should give us a call, because we want to, make sure that you are okay, because it seems like a weird thing to do, right? I'm wondering, is God saying, if I'm the kind of God that would take you out of a miserable situation like slavery and bring you into something positive, is He maybe saying, you can trust me to take leadership of your life. You can trust me to submit to me. But why are we hesitant to give God control of our lives? It's a great question, isn't it? You might need to think about it for a little while. I know for some of you, it might be hard to trust God with leadership of your life because maybe something hard has happened in your life, and it's just really hard to trust because maybe we've blamed God for some of those hard things that have happened in our life. Hey, I just want to just let you know that He feels with you in that. And that's a whole nother session that I'd love to talk about, but I just want to assure you that He didn't design you for those purposes of those hard things. Let's put pause on that for a second. If you have that question, reach out, or maybe we'll do another future session. I just want to come back to why don't we trust God with leadership of our lives? And when we don't trust Him with our leadership in our lives, it's kind of like we go right back into slavery. Slavery to who? Well, I think it's slavery to myself. Because the thing is, guys, if you're anything like me, when I'm in control of my life, I have this real weird knack of always screwing it up. However, do you think that God might be capable of leading your life well? Why don't you spend a little bit of time thinking about that? The next, let's go on to like verse 3 and 4. It said something to the effect of, have no other gods before me. Don't create any sort of image of anything else. Nothing we could create could come close to the goodness of God, right? There's nothing spectacular enough to even come close. So I wonder, why do we do it? Why do we create all these things and spend so much time worshiping them, chasing after them? We talked a little bit about that when we talked about simplicity, right? You know, I wonder if you remember stories like this group of people, Israel. They were doing all kinds of things that I would consider crazy, like making these golden calves and worshiping them. And I wonder, why in the world would they have done that? Well, you know, I do it too. Sometimes we fall into the same trap where it just feels more important to us to blend in with the people around us, even when we see that what they're doing is wrong, than to take a hard step and do what's right and focus on what's right. And in essence, that's what idolatry is it's just kind of blending in and focusing on the things that kind of just, you know, let us fit in with the crowd. It's pretty natural, and I think we've all done it at times. And before we laugh at Israel for worshiping cows, think about this. How many times haven't we done similar things to just blend in? I think of some of the things when students reflect with me, you know, it's like having that drink at the party and maybe even going too far with that too. I think of the students that talk to me about experimentation with drugs, or, you know, one of the realities is they'll go like, I don't know why I let this happen, but I went way too far with my girlfriend or my boyfriend. Because I just felt pressure to fit in with them. We make all kinds of really bad decisions in life, mostly because we're not submitted to God. We're rather submitted to fitting in. I could go on and on with this list, and I just wonder, why do we do it? I think if we're honest with ourselves, I think sometimes we would just really rather please, you know, someone that we can see, we can feel, we can touch, like our friends. Even when we know it's wrong, rather than to please God, who we don't see, but we know is right. And that is what we call idolatry. That's that commandment in the 10 Commandments. Anyway, let's move on to this final point here. God said here that He is a jealous God. If you were to think of something that, you know, makes people the most jealous, what would you say it really is? Like what's in a person that really makes them jealous? I think when a person is like crazy in love with someone, that's when you see those green eyes of jealousy come into play. You know, sometimes in my social media feeds, I get these Judge Judy videos. I don't know if you know who Judge Judy is. Anyway, she's got this court program, and she decides some of the craziest cases. You know, some of the things that people come up with are just mind-blowing. Anyway, one of the things that I notice is some of the craziest cases, some of the weirdest things that happen are when people are in love with another person. They make some really bad decisions in life, and then when things don't work out, they go and they sue for it. When people are crazy in love, sometimes they do the, you know, most bizarre things. But as I think about that, have you ever noticed that God does some pretty crazy things when He is in love? You know, like, when you start to look at the list of it, He delivered Israel. Like, these people that were screwing things up so often, and they were consistently turning their backs on Him, and He was consistently, you know, saving them from the people around them and their bad decisions, you know, and He blessed them over and over again, even when they didn't deserve it. I think, you know what, God does the same thing in my life too, is I mess it up, and he seems to always find a way to bring me through it and make life better, even though I don't really deserve it, or blesses me when I don't really deserve it, or He provides for me when I'm not even grateful. And finally, think about this, guys. God is a God that is crazy enough in love with you that He would actually send His Son to die for you. That sounds like someone who is crazy, irrational, and the jealous type of love. You know, in verse 5, it talks, you know, it's this, you know, I'm going to punish, you know, people, you know, I'm going to flex my muscles here out of this jealousy. And I kind of go, oh, yeah, this is kind of like serious stuff. And I get a little nervous about that, because it's like, really? He'd punish the kids for the sins of the parents? I think He's making a point here, because read the next verses. But then He says, I will like hug them indefinitely for, you know, thousands of generations afterwards if they obey me, if they surrender, if they submit. Okay, This is the kind of God that I think I can submit to. Let me ask you, what holds you back from submitting to the God that is crazy in love with you? You know, as I think about for myself, the stuff that I can come up with aren't really good reasons. It's things like fear or my desire for control, and I know I'd like to change. How about you? I encourage you to think about this and think it through and decide on a few things that you would like to change. As you pray and spend some time with Him, ask God, you know what, if I'm gonna be more surrendered to you, more submitted to you, what would you like me to change first? And let us know how it goes. Hey, blessings on your day.